Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to week 7 of the course. First off, as I'll say just about every week, those of you who are taking part in the course, it seems like some participation, we're at, beginning our 7th week, so, participation has fallen off a little bit. Sorry about my dog, but participation has turned off a little bit in the 7th week of the course. Just be sure to keep up with the work, right? Just check in every week, keep building on the articles. And what I thought we would do this week, I'll keep this pretty short. I'll talk about the book here. Basically, just keep reading forward in Almanac of the Dead for the week. You'll read up to part 5, or otherwise known as the Fifth World. And that's up to about page 565 or so in the text. I'll put all this below in the text below this video. So just keep reading. The narratives are in the book, beginning to come together. I think the most fascinating thing, the first thing I guess I would ask that you think about when you read this book is, when is it set? Like, is it set? I mean, the book is published in 1991, so knowing that, I think the book really could foresee into the future and see a lot of things that we're going to sort of become in some ways. The book has a certain future outlook, but is the book set in 1991, or is it set sometime in our present? Is it set sometime in the future? Think about that, I guess, is what I would ask you to think about first and foremost as you read through the book for this week. And then secondly, pay extra close attention to we're going to do the discussion posts a little bit differently this week. If you look down just below in the sort of step-by-step instructions right below this video, you'll see that for week 7 of the class, I want you to read an article. It's kind of a slightly longer article. I think it's the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken, in it, and it presents. I want you to read the article. It talks about rural poverty. It talks about rural suicide rates. It talks about rural drug use. And it does it in a very particular way. And I have us read this article, and it's not about a Native community. And I have us read this, and I want you to compare it to the other articles that it seems that predominantly what the articles that people have sort of been looking up that show, the drastic suicide rates in Indian country, the use of drug abuse, right? The disproportionate uses of drug abuse rates in Indian country, the disproportionate poverty in Indian country, right? It's very bleak, and not just in Indian country in the United States, but Aboriginal populations, the disparities in incarceration rates, right? All the stuff that you guys have been pulling up. Compare, if you will, the two narratives and the way the story is told between all the articles that you've been reading and then this article that I found and ask you to read that there's a link to just underneath this video. And I want you to look at how the story is told and see and compare, if you will, in your discussion post. I want you to sort of compare the two. And I'll put this here, and I'll also put the instructions at the top of the discussion post. So that's all I really have for this week. We'll keep it really short. Just keep plugging through. I know your spring break's coming up. I hope that you're enjoying Almanac of the Dead. I know that it's a bizarre book, and we'll talk about its more overall structure as we sort of get more on to the conclusion. But I just see so much of what she's trying to do with this project as having such a global sort of indigenous sort of perspective, and how all of these narratives in this, even though this book reads as very fractured, it's also one that's sort of coming back together. Even in its sense of presenting, especially pay attention to between 450 and say maybe 460 in the text, right towards the end of our readings for this week, to where it seems as though Silko is really trying to get her head around the homosexual characters in the book, or the narrative is trying to get its head around this. And there's a great line. It's like Sterling had found out a little from Cease about homosexual men. She said they were no different from other lovers or other couples. Sterling could not explain his curiosity without sounding prejudiced. Polly would have been strange even if he had not been gay. That was Sterling's point. So this idea that this humanity, I guess, or whatever. But it seems, and Max Blue and Sonny Blue and Bingo's story and all this, the mafia, all of this is sort of all of these sort of what we would think to be completely separate and disparate sort of strands of story are all now sort of coming back together, I think, as we move forward. So that's my big white dog back there, Stella. You saw her walk into the room. All right, so that's it. Read up to page whatever it was, part the fifth world, which I think is like page 570 something. I think 565 or so, up to the fifth world, and keep reading, right? And we'll see you next week. All right, thanks so much. Bye.